Welcome back, everybody. This is J Moments presenting the new math with your teach, Miss Miller. I am so happy to be here, and I hope you're glad to be here too. If this is your first time ever seeing the channel, welcome. If it isn't, what to do, what's going on? I want to make sure that everybody's ready for today's session, so don't forget to grab your notebook and a pencil, never a pen, because you can't erase a pen. Well, if you have an erasable pen, but anyway. Please remember this is a positive community, only leaving positive comments. Again, go grab that notebook and a pencil, and then let's jump right in. So today our topic is division with partial quotients. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get started right away. Remember, do the problems with me, not after me, right? Because as you're doing the process, you'll be more likely to remember and retain information. So let's get started. I am going to share my screen. All right. So, like I said, for today, our topic for today is going to be partial quotients. You might want to put that at the top of your paper so that way you already know what we're doing. Now, partial quotients is just almost like partial products where we're using the values, but however, with partial quotients, you're repeatedly subtracting groups of the divisor. So let's go over what that looks like. So let's talk about a division problem. If I had a division problem, let's do simple, right? 24, now my pen doesn't want to work. 24, right? Divided, oh, this pen is not working now. Let me start over with that. It's okay. We'll just erase all that. Beautiful. So let's say I'm starting with 24 divided by 6 equals 4, right? We should know that the first number, or the number that is our total, is called our dividend. And then what we're dividing by is our divisor. And then the answer we get will be called our quotient. So when I speak in terms today, you're going to hear me say dividend or total, and then you'll hear me say divisor, and then we'll say quotient. So let's get started. All right, erasing all that from the screen. Here is example number 1. So the first one we're going to do is 98 divided by 6. I'm going to put it over here. Right, so that's our problem we're going to work with. So what we set up is your house, but for partial quotients, you use what I call the big 7. So you put your divisor outside the house, and then you're going to put your dividend or total inside the house. So with that being said, we're going to put 6 outside the house, draw a big 7, looks like that. And then we're going to put the 98 inside the house. Now, before you get started, if you are still struggling with your fast facts, like your multiplication facts, you are going to list a fact chart on the side. Well, what does that look like? I'm going to do multiples of my divisor, and then you want to do friendly numbers. So friendly numbers include going to 6 times 5. That equals 30. Then we can also use 6 times 10. That equals 60. Other ones you can use as well. If we get larger numbers, we can do 6 times 100 equaling 600. And then if you want to just list your multiples of 6, you can also use 6 times 2 equals 12. And again, these are just to help us so that we don't have to think about these later. and then maybe like a 6 times 3 equals 18. All right, so let's get started. So you're going to determine your groups on this side of the equation. So this would be your groups right here. We're going to determine how many groups we're going to use. So first step, set up your problem. Second step, put your fast facts on the side or your fact chart on the side. Then after that, you are going to start your process. So I'm looking over my groups and I have 98 as my total. So I would use something close to 98, but doesn't go over 98. So the first one I'm going to use is 10 groups of my divisor, because 6 times 10 equals 60. So I want to subtract the 60 from the 98. So I write my groups on the side, 10 groups. 10 groups of 6 is 60, so I'm minusing 60. Draw a line straight across. This is so you can match your groups with what you're subtracting. Then I subtract like usual. So I have 8 minus 0 equals 8. 9 minus 6 equals 3. Now I'm left with 38 as my total. Well, which amount or multiples of 6 could I use to subtract from 38? Yeah, I'll use 30. So that means I'm using 5 groups of 6. And 5 groups of 6 is 30. So I'm going to subtract 30 from my total. Now I am left with 8. And you're thinking to yourself, well, none of my fact chart has 8. So can I still use my groups? You sure can. Thinking about, if I have 8 pieces of candy, can you give me 6? Well, how many groups of 6 can you give me out of the 8? I can give you 1 group of 6. And 1 group of 6 is 6. So once I finish there, it seems like we ran out of a little space, so I'm going to move over here. So I am going with 8 minus the 6, right? And remember, that was back over on that side, and we said we were using that's 1 group. So that leaves me with 2. Now I'm left with 2. If you have 2 pieces of candy, can you give me 6? No. So I can't subtract any more groups of 6. What's left over becomes my remainder. Final step is you're going to add those groups up. So once I add these groups, that will help give me my answer. 10 plus 5 is 15. 15 plus 1 is 16. So my final answer is going to be 16, remainder 2. So that is how we use partial quotients. We're using groups of the divisors. We're using what? Yeah, groups of the divisor to subtract from the total. That was pretty good. Hopefully you got that down. I'm going to erase this now. Hopefully you were writing with me and not after me. So let's clear this out. Get all that away. Let's try another problem. So let's try a problem of 105 divided by 7. All right. So again, first step, set up your big 7. So I'm going to put my divisor 7 outside the house. And then I'm going to put 105 inside the house. Looking good, looking good. Now I'm going to set up my fact chart. And I'm going to do multiples of 7. So I can do 7 times 5 equals 35. Then I can do 7 times 10 equals 70. Then I can do maybe 7 times, what do you think? You could do 7 times 100. I think that's too big for this problem. Yeah, because we only have 105, but you can list it. Then we can do, if you still want to list some more of your sevens, you could do 7 times 2, which equals 14. And then we can do 7 times 3 equals 21. I'll give you a second to get that down. All right, here we go. And remember, this side on the right is for our groups, because we're going to add those groups at the end to see how many groups of 7 are in 105. All right, hopefully you got that all written down. If you don't, go ahead and pause the video to make sure you got your fact chart on the side and you're ready to subtract groups of 7. All right, how many groups could I use first? Yeah, I can use 10 groups of 7. So on the side, I'm going to write 10 groups to subtract, and 10 groups of 7 is 70. Draw your line all the way across. And then let's subtract. 5 minus 0 is 5. I can't do 0 minus 7, so I'm going to borrow from the 1, make it a 0, and make this 0 into a 10. And 10 minus 7 equals 3. Now let's think about how many groups. Oops, let's back it up. How many groups of 7 I can use now? Well, how many groups of 7 are in 35? Look at over here. We got 7 times 5 is 35. So I'm going to use 5 groups of 7. So I'm going to write my 5 on the right. And 5 groups of 7 is 35. Subtracting from my total, 35 subtract 35 is 0. Looking good. Who remembers that last step? What do I have to do to get my answer? Yeah, I have to add my groups. So I'm going to add what's on the right, and 10 plus 5 equals 15. I don't have a remainder, so 15 is my final answer. How do you feel about that? Go ahead and drop that in the comments below. Is that feeling comfortable? Is this something that you're still struggling with? Is it hard to really recall those fact charts to make sure everything's good? All right, so let's go with another one. One more. This time we'll go all the way to 4 digits. This time I'm going to do 1080 divided by 8. Go ahead and set up your paper. This is the part in the video where I am going to try to let you lead on your paper, and then you can check back at the screen to see if you got the same thing. So you're setting up your big 7, your house, putting your divisor 8 where it belongs, putting your dividend 1080 where it belongs. All right, let's see if you did good. So in this problem, the 8 should go outside the house, or the big 7. Drawing my line. And the 1080 should go inside the house. A little jiggly on that last 0. My pen doesn't want to work. I'm not sure why, but we'll figure it out. All right, so what's the next step? What do I need to do if I'm not really good with my multiples of 8? Yeah, set up your fact chart. So let's set that up. We're going to do multiples of 8, friendly numbers. So I can do 8 times 5 equals 40. 8 times 10 equals 80. So we did 5, we did 10. Let's do 100 this time. So 5, 10, 100. These are friendly numbers. So we got 8 times 100 equals 800. Beautiful. And in this case, because we're in the thousands, maybe we want to do a couple more. So I'm going to do 8 times 2 to set me up for 20. That equals 16. So that means that 8 times 20 equals 160. Now again, we might not use all these. We might need to add some more to our fact chart, but that's okay. All right. Let's start the subtracting. All right. How many groups of 8 do you want to use first? Remember, right on the right side is going to be our groups. In this case, we're using groups of 8. So when I look at my list, I am using something close to 1,000. Look at your fact chart. What could we use? You got it. We can use 100 groups of 8. 100 groups of 8 is 800. And we're in the thousands, so that seems appropriate. So let's go ahead and put our groups, which was 100 groups of 8, on the right. Go ahead and start your subtraction. All right, so we're subtracting 800 from there. Hopefully you've already done it and you're just checking your work. So when I subtract, 0 minus 0 gives me 0. 8 minus 0 gives me 8. And 10 minus 8 gives me 2. Looking nice. Now, which groups should I use? How many groups of 8 can I use now using the fact chart I already created? Yeah, I can use 20 groups of 8. So let's use 20 groups of 8. Put the 20 on the right. And 20 groups of 8 gives me 160. Still looking good. Doing my subtraction, I have 0 minus 0 is 0. 8 subtract 6 is 2. 2 subtract 1 is 1. Oh, wow. So now I have 120. I'm going to look at my fact chart again. Is there a number close to 120 without going over that I can use? Sure can. I can use 10 groups of 8. I'm going to put the 10 on the side. Oops, that's still in red. Let's put it back in blue. And 10 groups of 8 is 80. So I'm going to subtract 80 from my total. All right, let's see what you got. 0 minus 0 is 0. And 12 take away 8 is 4. Well, how many groups of 8 are in 40? Yeah, I think some of you already saw it. I can use 5 groups of 8. So on the side, I'm going to put my groups. I'm using 5 of them. And then I am going to extend my line a little bit more, and I'm going to subtract 40. 40 take away 40 is 0. And I'm done. But not quite yet. I still need to have an answer. How do I get my answer? Yeah, I have to add my groups. So I am adding everything on the right. 100 plus 20, 120. 120 plus 10, 130. 130 plus 5 gives me an answer of 135. So our final answer for how many groups of 8 are in 1080 is 135. Fluffy cloud. Because math teachers love when you circle your answer or show where your answer is. Great job today. I'm going to stop the share. I hope that was helpful in understanding partial quotients. Again, this is your teacher, Miss Miller, trying to help with the new math. And if you have any suggestions on any other type of math that you would like to be seen on this channel, drop it in the comments. Fractions, decimals, algebraic equations, graphing, things like that, so I can get it to you. Again, make sure you always have your notebook and you're taking notes. And then that way it will help you with your actual homework problems or problems you have to do in class. Till next time, I will see you very soon. See you later.